We're the two teachers, and you're listening to another episode of UFO,
where you find out. Today, you're going to find out about the messaging at political conventions.
It's our summer school edition of UFO, and we've been traveling to the political conventions this summer as we anticipate the presidential election in the fall. And critical to any political convention, and really any political campaign, Andy, is messaging. The tone of the message, the content of the message, and how we hear it back home.
Well, that messaging is so crucial to kicking off your general election campaign. You've just fought a tough primary where you had a lot of opponents. You're now trying to unify all of those opponents and their supporters behind your campaign to energize your party behind your campaign. So you have to have a tone that works for that particular year to capture that energy.
You know, sometimes we forget that many of the decisions that we make aren't based on sitting down and thinking about it rationally, making pluses and minuses, advantages and disadvantages. It's a feeling. And we get those feelings from hearing messages. We're looking for that soundbite that we remember. All the speeches, I don't remember all the speeches we've heard, but I want to remember a message. I want to remember some sort of brand. That's the critical goal of any convention, to find that brand. Sometimes they get it, and sometimes they don't.
Well, and that message usually carries over to the general theme of the general election. You're going to hear comparisons and connections with that message up until election night in either a victory speech or a concession speech.
Historically, Andy, history would tell us that positive messaging and positive tones, hopeful tones, tend to be more successful. On the other hand, negative messaging and negative tones rile people up. Which one do you use?
It completely depends if you're the party in power or the party out of power. If you're the party in power, you paint a very optimistic and positive vision for what you've accomplished and what you're going to do for the next 4 years. But if you're the party out of power, you're the watchdog. And watchdogs tend not to be very positive when they're barking. And so, yes, you have a much more negative view of what your opponent did in the previous 5 years when you're the party out of power. So it's going to be more negative.
So change becomes the tone if you're the opposition party, and somehow maintaining a sense of optimism if you're the incumbent party. Andy, this messaging game isn't very easy, and it's so critical because in the end, when we flip that switch in the voting box, it's less about going through the laundry list of the platform and more about that impression that was made, maybe watching the convention, maybe listening to a debate, maybe seeing that visual on television. It's a feeling that ultimately makes the difference. We're the two teachers, and you've been listening to another episode of UFO.
Today, you found out about the messaging of political conventions.
We're the two teachers. No fancy words.
No fancy suits.
Plain talk about issues you need to know. Just in time.